This is Staying Healthy, and of course, we pick a topic of interest to the folks out there. And what could be more interesting than staying hydrated during this hot season? We've got about 2 weeks of temperatures over 100 degrees coming up, and you'll need to be hydrated to literally survive those. So joining us today is Norma Mayer Cox.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. How are you today?
Hot, but I'm not dehydrated.
Well, that's good. That's the way it should be. And, of course, we'll have to give a plug to Arrowhead Water here.
Thank you, Arrowhead.
Because they are keeping us hydrated. And Norma's from Caremore Health. You're a registered dietitian.
That is correct.
And a nutritionist. And let me ask you a quick question. What does a nutritionist do? You don't run around checking vegetables, do you?
No, we don't. Being a dietitian is actually a real versatile field. So you can work in school systems, hospitals, nursing homes. Basically, you want the person to have good nutrient intake for their particular needs, whether you're in a school, whether you're a child, for that stage. If you're elderly, if you've got certain chronic medical conditions, you make sure that the person is eating the right things for that medical condition. So it's maintaining adequate nutrition.
So I would imagine if you ate well most of your life, you'd probably live longer.
Not necessarily, but yes.
Cheer me up, you know. But today we're talking about hydration, and there couldn't be anything more important about living right now than hydration. We hear on the news, yesterday there was a dog that was dehydrated when it was out walking in Madeira Canyon. We know folks that go camping and they go out there hiking and become dehydrated and don't do too well if they're not found quickly enough. What specifically is proper hydration so we don't end up like a basket case?
Well, our bodies are made mostly of water. That's
I always forget that.
We're over 75% water.
Yeah.
So in order to maintain all of our systems functioning, you have to have that proper balance between the water and our minerals, our electrolytes. Because all of our cells and all of our systems, there's water inside the cells, water outside the cells, and you need to maintain the balance between the two.
Well, exactly. So our only way of intaking water is through our mouth, correct?
Yes, there's alternate means of hydration, IV fluids, of course.
Yes, but I meant just as a normal procedure.
You can also, when you sweat, the water that comes out, it can be evaporated and then taken back in through your skin.
Really?
Yeah, so that's, but for the most part, yes, through our mouth. Yes.
Now, proper hydration allows your body to function, as you said, correctly. You've got kidney health?
Oh, we've got, yes. All of our systems depend on water.
Yeah.
Kidney health, for example. The kidneys, they produce urine, basically, to remove waste and toxins. We create waste products when we digest food. So the body... the kidneys create urine to get rid of these wastes and maintain our blood balanced. So when you don't drink enough fluids, you may get a really concentrated urine. And so that means having concentrated urine means that you have a lot of these minerals that can crystallize. And when they crystallize, then you can have formation of kidney stones, blockages, urinary tract infections, which is, not fun.
Yeah, it hurts.
It hurts. So, just drinking water helps, in and out, flush out the system.
How long can the kidney go without water?
A person should not go 3 days max, probably. If you're, out in the wilderness or something.
Yeah. Now they say 8 glasses of water, 8 bottles of water. What I hear so many differing views on
exactly.
this.
There's so many different ways. You end up with the same amount, but okay, average Okay, you're gonna hear drink half of your body weight in ounces. So if
Really?
so if you're 150 pounds, that's 75 ounces. That would be about 7 cups, I think.
I have to look and see how many ounces are in this bottle here. 17 ounces in the bottle.
Yeah,
So.
or you can do like if you want to get a little bit more technical, you can do a milliliter for every calorie burned. Well, we don't know how many calories you burn, but
And I also don't know what a milliliter is. So talk about
very
ignorance.
Little, very like it's a cc, it's a milliliter. But basically, if you burn 3,000 calories, that would be 3 liters a day.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just go female, male. A female, you want to do about 8 7-ounce glasses, about 56 ounces, which would be about 8 cups, 7 point something, and males closer to 9 cups for males. On average, a person should have about 2 liters. Okay. Or you can do 30 milliliters per kilogram body weight. So it depends a lot on body weight, of course, your physical activity, your exertion level, and the weather.
Yeah, of course. Now, I didn't realize there were so many formulas to determine.
A lot of formulas. Mm-hmm.
So the key is at least have some water, and we'll get to overhydrating in a minute, but that's just kidney health. There's dental health.
There's a lot. All of our systems depends on water. Dental health, we're just naming out a few systems here. You need water to produce saliva. And saliva helps keep your enamel strong, but it also helps reduce the plaque and bacteria. So, again, water is a very important part of that. It starts the digestive process. Through the digestive process, the water helps the food being digested through the intestines. It helps maintain the integrity of the intestines. You want it to be smooth and flexible so that the stool can pass through, or the bolus. And then, of course, you want water to form soft, smooth stools that are easy to pass. So it helps the digestive system that way. Like we were talking before, the urinary tract infections, urinary tract health. Water helps, flush all that out. For urinary tract infections, we hear a lot about cranberry juice, and that's true. Cranberry juice, and you can do cranberry pills as well. But cranberry, there's the metabolites when we digest cranberry that help E. coli, which is the major bacteria. It helps for that not to glob on to other bacteria. Okay, so
it pushes
reduces,
it through.
So it reduces the amount of bacterial buildup. So that's true enough. Yes.
And water controls your body temperature, which I would imagine is probably the major. Well, actually, they're pretty well dispersed.
Everything, it controls your body temperature. If you don't have your body temperature under control, well, your blood pressure is right there, with it. So it's all this balance between sodium and water. Sodium it's one of those things that sodium attracts water, and they're always balancing each other out. So there can be a buildup of sodium, and then that attracts water. But then if there's too much sodium, the body's going to try and take it out from your blood to cut that down. So the body's always going to be searching for a balance.
And that's where the water intake comes in. Now, what happens if you exercise? Obviously, you have to have a little bit more water. How do you determine, for instance, an exercise or pregnancy? Let's do exercise first.
Yeah, you adjust fluid needs for all these different conditions. So with exercise, it's going to be about 10 ounces more for every hour of moderate physical activity at moderate temperatures. Now, when you're in Arizona, it's not exactly a moderate temperature. So you want to increase more than that, and depending on your physical activity.
So that's 10 ounces per hour?
Per hour more.
And you say moderate exercise. So some of these folks who do extreme exercise...
Then even more, okay.
Much more, and obviously don't go out in the crazed heat here.
Exactly. Try and do it early in the morning. And of course, you want to take in as much as you're sweating out.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to do more than that. Now, unfortunately, the signs of dehydration are the same as overhydration. So sometimes people mistake the signs of overhydration as dehydration. They take in more water and exacerbate the problem. So
your body can only digest or take so much water at any given time.
It's rare, but you can overhydrate. So basically, when that happens, it's called hyponatremia, and that's the sodium in your blood becomes so diluted that the cells are unable to function. In every cell that you've got, sodium and water always balancing each other out. But when it comes too diluted, the cells are unable to function, and so systems start breaking down. So that can happen if you're dehydrated or overhydrated.
Now, if you're dehydrated, we know what the solutions are, but if you've overhydrated, do they drain water out of you?
Pretty much the same. Add some salt.
Ah.
So basically, you want to eat some salt, some pretzels. Take with you some pretzels, and that's what the electrolyte replacement drinks are for. They give you water, so that then your body will the sodium will move out into outside the cells, which is the interstitial space, and so that maintains that balance. So you can add some salt with some electrolyte replacement drinks or a salty snack.
Now, what about pregnancy? How do you measure how much water you need? You're obviously drinking for two.
Within pregnancy, you need more water, but if you've got like the high blood pressure that some women get, then you shouldn't have more. So you want to note the signs of dehydration. The signs of overhydration. If you've got a lot of fluid buildup and you're swelling in the legs and things like that, then you may want to lay off a little bit.
Let's look at the signs of dehydration if we can. Is there
there's a
chart or
headache, first of all. Headaches, lethargy, weakness, nausea. Certainly.
Do some people faint, I would imagine?
Yeah. Poor skin turgor. What that means is that if you pinch your skin, the skin should go back to its normal position. If it stays up, that's called tenting. Okay? So if your skin were to stay up, that's poor skin turgor. That would be a sign of dehydration. Also, dry mucous membranes inside of your mouth, your eyes. If that's dry, a lot of diuretics that are pulling water off, a lot of times you get the dry mouth. Again, that's when the saliva comes in too. You need water for that. And of course, the color of your urine. You want it to be light, very light, straw, hay colored, perhaps Pinot Grigio color,
Feel like I'm at Starbucks.
But you don't want it to be apple juice or Chardonnay.
Okay. So that sounds pleasant somehow. But with the hydration and the dehydration, what about these waters that have caffeine in them or a Red Bull or something like that?
When you have caffeine it's a diuretic, but it also constricts your blood vessels. So you can have a little bit of caffeine, but not in excess. So you can hydrate up to a point, but when you have too much caffeine, Red Bulls have a lot of caffeine. Tea and coffee, they're actually not as bad as they're made out to be, but in excess of 3 cups, then you're probably getting a little too much caffeine. Decaf coffee, decaf tea, even better.
And so decaf coffee and decaf tea could work as a hydrator at least.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't have to be plain water. Plain water is best, especially in certain situations. For sure, dental health. Plain water is best. You don't want a sugary drink, which can cause cavities. But generally speaking, plain water is best. Milk is actually a really good hydrator.
Really?
Because you've got the added vitamin D, you've got protein, calcium, these extras that help retain that hydration for longer. so it doesn't pass through quite as quickly, and you actually retain the liquid for longer. Fruit-infused waters, those are good too.
There's
sparkling water's okay.
Yeah.
Fruit juices, you want to stick with the lower sugar content juices, and maybe water it down. About 50%. That's all right too. And again, with the electrolyte replacement drinks, it's about, are you sweating all your minerals out? Are you even if you've got like diarrhea or vomiting, where you're losing a lot of electrolytes, that would be appropriate for an electrolyte replacement.
Now, can you take a fruit, for instance, apples, and hydrate yourself that way?
Absolutely,
I'm sure it would take longer.
Absolutely. You, by drinking or by eating rather foods that are high in water, that's a form of hydration too.
I hate to say watermelon, but
watermelon is
high
over
in
90,
sugar.
Yeah, it's over 90% water though.
Yeah.
Cucumbers are great. Even soups or stew, those are hydrating as well. But cantaloupe.
I was thinking of cantaloupe. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can, drinks like Jello, ice pops, low sugar ice pops. Those would be good for hydration as well.
Is there a temperature that you shouldn't be outside exercising or riding a bike? I see folks, we were talking about it earlier today, folks who are riding their bike in the skin-tight outfits and running down the street. And it literally, yesterday, I went home, it was 102, 103, and there are people running down the street, and I didn't see an earthquake or a monster.
If you're going to be out in those temperatures, it's important to actually hydrate before you head out. Okay, so a trained athlete knows to do that, depending on the duration of the workout. Certainly in these temperatures, they'll hydrate, do the workout, and then rehydrate. Okay, so, and again, wearing light colored clothing, things like that. And remember, it's not just temperature, but altitude as well. If you're training at higher altitudes, you're less likely to feel thirsty. So when you're at a higher altitude than when we are, that actually will increase your water needs as well.
Well, you can feel it in your skin, or at least I can when I'm at a higher altitude, and you seem to sweat more quickly.
You're breathing harder.
So now, hydrating before a physical event, what are the rules there? Not drink a whole gallon of water and hope you sweat it out.
No, not drink a whole. In fact, you want to sip. Your liquids before.
Or if you're a bicyclist, a lot of them have
the little packs.
Containers, and they have a tube up to their mouth. Is that an effective way to hydrate yourself?
Yes, absolutely, because you're doing it in small sips, and so again, it takes a while. Maybe you want to hydrate before on milk. Like I said before, your body will retain that hydration for longer. And then maybe during the workout, then you do the water.
Okay. Now, the electrolytes that are in your body contain what?
Well, the electrolytes are minerals, basically. You've got sodium, of course, potassium, magnesium. These are all different minerals that are good for many different things. But maintaining that balance of fluids. It's not, for example, vitamin C in your cells doing this work. It's the minerals. It's not the vitamins doing this sort of stuff. So the electrolyte replacement drinks, you want to look for something that's low in sugar, because believe it or not, a lot of them are very high in sugar.
Yeah, to pump you up.
So, something that will give you not only the fluid that you need, but also the sodium, the potassium, things that are lost when you're sweating. Certainly, you don't want to get dehydrated to the point where you're lethargic or in some sort of fog, But yeah, that's the purpose of an electrolyte replacement drink.
Now, if you become dehydrated, you can rebuild yourself, or does it get to a point where you actually have complete organ failure?
Yes, there comes a point where you can have complete organ failure and death for dehydration. But a lot of times when somebody lands in the hospital, that's what they do, is they give you an IV fluids.
Quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the IV fluids contain what? Is that minerals and water?
Usually sodium. A lot of times it's dextrose too, which is sugar. Again, depending on what the situation is, but most of your IVs are sodium and dextrose.
Now, if you're, for instance, a diabetic or you have medical conditions, how does that affect your water intake?
Well, usually there's different medical conditions. You want to adjust for congestive heart failure, for kidney. If your body's unable to, deal with a big load of water, then you need to cut down. Maybe about 20 to 25 milliliters per kilogram body weight. If you are in pretty bad shape with your kidneys, or if you're swelling a lot, exhibiting symptoms of fluid overload, then you have to kind of cut down.
Swelling represents what, for instance, in the ankles?
It represents fluid building up on the outside of the cells. So you've got a lot of cells, and it's that space on the outside of the cell.
We should have brought a cell with us.
So instead of being like it balance between inside the cell and outside the cell. So you do get the swelling of the feet, the hands, the face. That's the most common. But in the case of, like, for example, liver failure, you get it around the belly. Ascites around. That's what's called a beer belly. So
okay.
That's more of a liver
situation. Yeah. Now, so congestive heart failure, that also is take less water or take the same amount over a longer period of time.
when your body's unable to pump and get the blood circulating, and you have this buildup of fluid, it raises your blood pressure, and then your heart can't deal with that. So you want to kind of be on the low end of that, but you still want to be hydrated, though. It's always a balance. You don't want to you want to hydrate just enough.
Is there a test you can do to tell if you're appropriately hydrated?
Again, you
just
have to look
signs?
at just the signs and symptoms. Of course, there's blood tests that can, that'll tell you, and they're going to be mostly, pertaining to your kidneys. There's different tests within your metabolic panel.
Now, what if you hydrate yourself minimally over a long period of time? Can that affect you? In other words, if I drink too much coffee every day instead of having water.
Well, I'm not a big water drinker myself. Gotta be honest. So I think you can, so long as you are not, your urine's a good color, your skin turgor's good, you're not have dry mucous membranes, I think you can hydrate yourself. Let's say, the bare minimum, so long as you meet that bare minimum.
Yeah.
Of course, there's added benefits if you do more.
So if you need to walk, for instance, if you have to walk to work, or you may have to walk to a bus station or something like that, what's the best way to handle that if you're going out in weather that's 102, 106? If you're in Phoenix, 112.
Well, and how long is the walk to the bus stop? We should always carry a water bottle when we live in the desert, and just sip on it throughout the day. I mean, that's probably the best way.
Actually, that's very common sense there.
Yeah.
And for folks who, I see these roofers out there that are out in this weather. I don't know how those guys do it.
I don't either. But they always have those big jugs of those thermos I see in their trucks.
Yeah. Well, let's review very quickly hydration and dehydration. First of all, you should hydrate, and that encompasses...
aim for 2 liters a day. of a fluid, a good fluid. We're not talking 2 liters of vodka or things like that, but 2 liters of a good low sugar drink. Doesn't have to be plain water, but certainly stay away from either too much caffeine or too much alcohol.
Okay, so you're looking at water, and if you drink something like Gatorade, what are the rules and regs for that?
Make sure that you don't have impaired kidney function, first of all. You don't want to overload your system with too much minerals and salt, and certainly not sugar. But make sure that you need to replace something. That's why they're called electrolyte replacement drinks. You need to replace something that you've lost. So if you haven't been sweating or exercising for longer than an hour, you really don't need them.
So in other words, if you're sedentary like Steve here,
plain water would be best for Steve.
Okay, but I mean, you shouldn't really. Gatorade can damage you. Or,
yes, certainly. Yeah, if
any of the drinks, not specifically Gatorade, in case our lawyers are listening.
Electrolyte replacement drinks. If there's no need to replace, then that's probably not your best choice.
Okay, and if you're outside and you've finished your water and you're beginning to feel weak, what are the signs of dehydration? And if you're out in the sun, should you get in the shade or should you call for water?
So you asked if you're in the desert and you don't have water? Well, okay. If your mouth is starting to get a little white and dry, kind of crusty, that is a sign of dehydration. Of course, weakness, lethargy. Yes, get in the shade, okay, and bring your body temperature down.
And so my takeaway from this is, and it really comes down to common sense and keeping the idea of hydrating right there in your mind. Stamp hydrate on your head for the summer months.
Yes, no need to chug your water, but definitely, yes, stay hydrated.
And obviously the great idea of bringing water with you everywhere you go is probably a good idea.
Yes.
Anything we're missing?
No, it's important to keep active, though.
Yes.
You know, we don't want to use it as an excuse not to be.
Darn, there goes my excuse. So, well, Norma, we appreciate it. Norma Mayer Cox from Caremore Health.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, a pleasure, and hopefully we'll get back together at some point and talk about nutrition.
Absolutely.
And not only drink healthy, but eat healthy.
That is correct.
Alrighty, thank you so much. This has been Staying Healthy. I'm Jim Walker for KGVY 1080 and KGVY 100.7 FM.